just a matter of time, I suppose.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the world of Nolan. I'm Nolan Canova, and welcome to my world. On this edition of the world of Nolan, one of several I hope to produce on comics to movies adaptations, we're going to examine The Watchmen, a big release movie that came out early March of this year, 2009. Watchmen is based on a graphic novel produced by Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore. The Watchmen is a DC comic produced in the mid-'80s. It deals with a group of superheroes who existed in the 40s as the Minutemen, and it takes place, in fact the movie takes place in 1985 in a sort of an alternate reality where we have superheroes in the streets. We won the Vietnam War due to some of the superheroes, and Richard Nixon is still president of the United States. The Watchmen, their career began in the 40s in this fictitious universe as regular costumed heroes, not necessarily all that super powered, but fantastic at the fighting arts. And they went through the 40s and 50s fighting crime until a terrible accident happened to one of them, Dr. John Osterman, who had an unfortunate encounter with something called an intrinsic field subtractor in the late 50s, and the accident resulted in him becoming the nearly omnipotent Dr. Manhattan. With the Dr. Manhattan as a citizen of the United States and a superhero, we were able to win the Vietnam War and fend off the Russians from attacking us with nuclear weapons. In fact, in this story, we are still dealing with Russians and the looming threat of nuclear war. Only Dr. Manhattan kind of keeps the peace. Apparently the public began to distrust the superheroes after second generation, and they were generally outlawed, and the public distrusted them. And if they didn't go underground to become vigilantes, they worked for the government. Well, the Watchmen story takes place, it begins actually with the death of one of the heroes, a character called the Comedian. Another one of the group, a very psycho detective named Rorschach, who has a very interesting mask that's comprised of fluid that shifts and changes around. He endeavors to find out who killed the Comedian, and if this person or persons is out to kill costume superheroes. This is a very interesting story directed by Zack Snyder, who did 300. I went to the movie with two of my colleagues on the Nolan's Pop Culture Review, Chris Woods and Terence Nuzum, and they'll give you their opinion in a moment, but I'd just like to say that I enjoyed the movie very much. There's about three things you want to take into consideration with the movie. One is if you've read the comic first. It seems to have an impact if you've read the comic. I read sort of kind of halfway the comic in the 80s, but truthfully I didn't remember a whole lot of it. It didn't impact me as much as Dark Knight, which came out about the same time. So count me as one who basically didn't read the comic. So if you haven't read the comic, I think you get a lot out of the movie. There's a lot of soap opera in it and a lot of politics. Did you read the comic? You ever read the comic?
No, I never read the comic, unfortunately.
Okay, but did you know the plot of the movie kind of going in behind?
A little bit. I just knew that was about the lives of superheroes after they were done being superheroes and the troubles they go through. And
so, what did you think of the movie as a movie?
It wasn't bad. It was a little bit too long, but I guess the comic was long, and a lot of people say it should be long. The movie should have been longer, but
like a miniseries. You think it would function better than a miniseries?
Maybe it might have been, but the act was great. And then I thought the second act was kind of dragged a little bit, but the ending was pretty good. So all in all, it was a decent film.
Well, you have read the comic, so how does the comic compare to the movie? How faithful is the movie to the comic?
People would argue this, but I don't know. I generally thought it was pretty faithful to the comic as far as in a movie sense, and that you can't have every little aspect of the comic. But I think, it's hard for me to look at it as just watching the movie because I read the comic. So I know all the little things, and my mind is filling in the backstory, so I can't really say what I honestly can't give you an opinion as just a movie.
Okay, but at 3 hours, do you think it could have been cut to make it more accessible to audiences, or it needed to be longer?
That needed to be where it was because they cut it anymore. I thought there was already things in the movie that if you hadn't read the comic, you wouldn't even know what that was. Like little, like I mean, there was things in there you had to have read, like little intricate things that.
But I enjoyed the movie, and the special effects are very spectacular. What do you think of the effects, the makeup, all of that?
Wasn't bad. I liked the Rorschach's mask, how it constantly like changed in the face and stuff. And the Dr. Manhattan wasn't bad. But the rest of it was I didn't like the blood CGI stuff. All blood CGI in any movies looks fake. I want to see the real, like fake blood, corn syrup and all that stuff. So.
What do you think of the makeup, the effects?
I thought the makeup was all right. I'm not a big fan of CGI, but I think Dr. Manhattan was all right. I mean, he looks like that pretty much in the comic. I didn't like Chris said, I didn't like the blood and guts being CGI'd. I didn't like that scene at all because in the comic Rorschach burns the guy, and this was just kind of like blood for blood's sake, and it wasn't even real blood.
This is, if I didn't say it before, I say that Zack Snyder, who directed 300, is the director of The Watchmen, and I think he did a very good job. I didn't see 300, but I know the impact it made on cinematography and on motion pictures, and it was a very popular movie. And I think that The Watchmen was very impactful along similar lines as far as politics, a world of superheroes, and and how we handle the threat of nuclear war with costume superheroes.